First of all, thanks for coming today. Secondly, if I accidentally start to talk with a really bad accent, I just can't help myself. When I talk to people with an accent, I naturally start to try to talk like them and do anything about it, and they catch me all the time. So, sorry about that.
Just laugh at her.
Just laugh at me. But yeah, let me introduce my amazing team of people that I get the privilege to travel around the world with. First of all, we got Drew over here on drums. We got Fred over here in the wings. He does a lot of our stage sound for us. We got Corey off here to the side who does all of our tech work. He's my violin tech. He babysits all my violins. We got Andy in the back on lighting. Woohoo! And Rob in the back doing sound for us. And E-Rich taking the pictures over there. He's our tour dad. Takes care of us on the road. So, does anyone have any questions for me or for anybody that I've mentioned? Yeah.
Actually, probably get so many questions asking how we got now, but I'm really interested to know, we started, this week would have been so difficult, and starting at YouTube, working your way out by yourself, of course you had help along the way, but what made you want to be here?
Yeah, well, I wanted, for a long time, before anyone knew who Lindsey Stirling was, before I started putting videos on YouTube, I was trying so many different things, much more traditional route things to make it as an artist, some of them not so traditional. I mean, I was auditioning for talent agencies, I was sending music to record labels, I was sending DVDs to every TV show I could think of. I did so many things to try to get anyone to pay attention to what I was doing. And I was making just enough money by playing college shows, and I would basically play during like lunch at college campuses, off in the corner while everybody's just trying to eat their lunch in peace, and I would be off like rocking out in the corner. And colleges would pay me just enough to do this that I was able to fund my first album by doing this. And so pretty much once I had content that was quality, and this was what I wanted to showcase to the world, that's when I discovered YouTube, and by putting videos on YouTube, it changed my life, and it started slowly. I mean, I remember my first video, it got like, 20,000 views, and just being like, whoa, dang, I mean, I was stoked that 20,000 people had seen my song, and, most of them liked it. A couple people made fun of me, but that's okay. It's okay. So that's kind of where it all started, and then by collaborating with other artists, and just learning all I could about social media and really diving into it and making, doing some things right, making some mistakes, but just learning, because there was no rule book written for YouTube. And so it's been, I still am just kind of trying different things all the time and seeing what works.
That's been pretty, very brain-searching work, because as you're learning it, you've got to do this research and make sure that you keep the right thing, and also finding your own style as well, because I started listening to music. I went around last year and my course, my friends suggested to me, I love wild music, but I hear it found music that made my ears and it's inspiring. It's just really good. I really love it.
Well, thank you so much. Pat on my back. Anybody else have any questions? I saw some other hands. Yeah.
Just going to say, please tell me you guys are coming back to New Zealand again sometime.
I'm sure we will. Every time we tour a part of the world, we get to go to more places. And so, last time we came to Australia, we just weren't able to make it to New Zealand. This time we come, next time hopefully we'll do 2 shows in New Zealand. Every time we come to a place, we usually do, we've never shrunk in a tour before, we've always grown. So hopefully we'll get to do even more shows next time.
Do you have a song that's really kind of that you kind of consider your favorite of all time, whether it's just for personal reasons or whether it's just the song itself structure-wise you like, or?
They're all like my little babies. I wrote them all and everything. Like my little kids. I definitely have favorites. Crystallize changed my life, so that song will always be special to me. I really love Take Flight and Shatter Me off the new album just because of the personal connection I have with those songs, and I love Spontaneous Me because it's the first song I ever wrote when I discovered my new style. So those are kind of my favorite children. That's allowed. Yeah.
I noticed on some of your YouTube videos, like, that you like the system with you, where you have the friends with you, and I'm figuring that really helps me around. And now I'm using like these guys who do shares as well. So first, has to see someone that you're taking together with your dad,
Your dad?
around
Well, let's see. This tour, it's like the because it's really hard to actually tour in New Zealand and Australia. You know, it's very difficult to get a whole tour out here, you know, financially. So we just came with pretty much, you know, all the people that we needed to make the show happen. When we tour, what? No, it doesn't. It does not.
Just the people who can make it.
No, we brought everybody that, you know, but basically I wasn't able to bring my
Y'all
sister. You know, I wasn't able to, my parents came with us to Europe for a couple shows just because I wanted to bring them on the adventure. You know, so I do a lot of tours, I try to bring, you know, another girl, let's just face it. Sometimes it's nice to just, I find a job for a best friend, or this tour we just were able to bring the rock stars.
Yeah, there it is.
But no, so yeah, but we're just excited to be here. Like I said, it's difficult to come to Australia and New Zealand, but I really wanted to, so we made it happen. Because I was like, I want to go back. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
And just a question, how did you start playing violin? What inspired you?
Classical music actually inspired me. When I was a kid, when my parents loved classical music, and they would take me and my sisters to orchestra concerts, and they would play orchestral, you know, music in our home on this old record player. And I was a smart kid, and I saw that the violinists always got the solos, and they always had the fun melodies. And so, the same way like kids look up to like Taylor Swift, and like, I want to be her, I want a guitar, I want to sing. I was like, that's a rock star, because that's what I was exposed to. So I begged for violin lessons when I was like five or six. Woohoo! Yes.
Still Harlequin types, by the way.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Just want to ask, what do you do in your downtime? Like CDs are out, what do you do?
You know, I don't really stop. When a tour ends, I usually have so much, I feel like I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't released a video in 2 months, like, I gotta make a video. And so immediately, and then also we're already planning, you know, future tours. You know, you always have to be so far ahead in order to make the ball keep rolling, otherwise you get to the end of a tour and everything stops. So usually when I get off a tour, I either go into, you know, promo for something, or we've been touring now for months. Just, the world is a big place, and we want to see it all. So, but I did take a week off, like I literally took a week off for Christmas. And I went home to Arizona, and I just sat around with my family, and we played games, and that's my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of doing something like a classical piece and an electronic spin on it? So like Fly the Bumblebee, but like a dubstep remix on it?
I have a bumblebee. I have thought of that before, because I mean, that just kind of combines both the worlds I came from in a very cohesive way, so it'd be really cool. I like that idea. Yes?
Do you have a favorite cover that you've done?
Favorite cover? I loved working with the piano guys, doing Mission Impossible with them. Just they're musical geniuses, and they are such fun guys. The piano guys, I don't know if they've toured here yet, but if the piano guys are ever in your vicinity and you have a chance to go, their show is amazing. They're one of my favorite artists out there.
Thank you.
Obviously, you've got popularity down and yourself as a creator and more professional and stuff like that. Do you have any ideas for
You know, that's the big question. I'm going to start working on this next album when I get off of probably this next tour. I'm going to start to go into the studios and at least try to figure out. A lot of times, my last album, I was trying to think, how am I going to make this different than my first? And it just kind of took on a life of its own. And so I'm curious to see kind of what life this new album takes on, because I definitely want it to be a progression. I want it to be a step up, or at least a slight, in a different direction at least than my last album. Yeah.
I started acting when I was 6 years old, and then I stopped through high school because I was getting bullied a lot and stuff for it. And when you released Family Opera, it actually inspired me to get back into it. I loved it so much. Just want to say thank you for having all the music there, elements, and more acting stuff. I really love it. It keeps me inspired. What's your favourite music?
Wicked. Oh, hands down. Yes, if you can find me. I wish I could sing like that. We actually just filmed a Les Miserables medley because we went and saw it when we were in London on our last tour, and I was like so inspired, like you were saying. I was just like, wow. So yeah, just filmed that. It'll be out sometime this month, so I'm very excited about that. And I filmed it like a play. I wanted it to feel like the actual play, so it's very much like that. Yes.
Obviously, you're on a sort of a flying visit, coming straight from Tokyo and then back overseas tomorrow. Do you sort of wish for a bit of downtime in the countries you go to? Like, you don't get to see the scenery?
Well, I'm lucky enough. I came to New Zealand several years ago with Devin Graham, and I did film Lord of the Rings, and I was here just basically as his camera assistant, and then between takes of what he was working on, I would like run in the car and throw on my white dress and like go on the side of the road and play, and then we go on and shoot the next thing for his videos. But literally, we filmed that whole video just off of the highway, so cars were driving by. When I film, I'm in it. I'm like full-on expressions. I'm like, I am an elf. I'm an elf princess. Yeah, right. Just happened to be right by the highway. I remember there was one that was particularly bad. It was on a hike, and all these hikers, like really cool, like New Zealand hikers, like dudes that are like their shirts are like tied around their heads. They're all really attractive, and I'm playing my violin in a white dress. Yeah. Yeah, that's a verbal one. Also, some of the parts when I was just walking around, it looked like just a really awkward wedding photo shoot. But I'm like, who needs a groom? What about me? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, because of that, I got sidetracked. I got to see some of the amazing sights of New Zealand then. I went to the Shire, which was like one of the coolest things ever, and I went to the glowworm cave. Yes, awesome. So I was telling these guys, I was like, we have to come back so that I can show you all these awesome things that I've seen. Yeah. Yes.
Between all your how do you manage to get any downtime between all your rehearsal videos, all the tours you do, and don't say on the plane because that doesn't count?
How do I manage what?
Downtime.
How do I get downtime?
Yeah.
She doesn't like downtime.
Actually, it's kind of true. I get very uncomfortable when I have like a lot of downtime. I start to like just create random things because I'm like, I need to keep my mind engaged, and I almost feel uncomfortable because usually it's just, which is probably a bad thing because it makes you think about. But it's like over Christmas break, I made myself take a break, and yeah. Yes.
You mentioned your girls before, and of course you've got Gabi and Drew here with you, but how is it get kind of Sandra?
Right?
What?
Becky?
I still can't believe that caught on. That's like a thing.
We need to do another one. I was telling them, I was like, I need to do another. I did a My Girls episode one time. It was before it was one of the tours where I didn't have like a girl on the road with me, so they became My Girls.
I know.
We got Becky and Sandra.
We do.
Anybody?
Huh?
What? No!
It has to come out spontaneously. They won't put on call. That's why it's so hard to,
thing.
it's so hard to catch. I want to do another one, but they will
I
go
want my
shut
rep
it.
to stay okay, not being like.
Street cred? What street cred?
I know, right? True. That's true.
Any other questions?
Yes.
I noticed on your videos you used a large number of guitars, violins. How many violins do you have and what do you do?
I tour with 4 usually. So I've got my 4 little babies here. This one's probably my favorite. This is Excalibur. And it's the first violin that I bought when I was like, I'm going to be a professional musician. So this is like my baby. Then I've got I really like my Yamaha electrics. I bedazzled one like that. But altogether, I think I have about 11 violins. Most of them are like props though, like a steampunk one that I took and just, sometimes I'll buy really inexpensive items and just turn them into cool looking props. Yes.
Just for the furries, because you make such a good team, how did you furries actually get together?
I knew her first manager, and she decided last minute before her first show to put together a band. And he called me, and he was like, well, can you do this? And I was like, I had never heard of her, and I was like, sure, this is trippy and cool. This is like early May 2012, and he was like, hey, do you know any keyboard players? And Gabi and I were in bands in LA, and so I called him. We flew to New York, learned like 17 songs in 2 days or whatever, and then played the show. And like she'll explain later, it was only supposed to be one show, but it turned into 3 years later, and it's still out there.
It's crazy. Phantom was almost the end of me. Trying to learn that song amounts to 17 other ones. There's like 4 key changes and 3 tempo changes. I called Drew. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, I'm not doing this. He's like, dude, just do it. I'm like, I don't want to do it. He's like, just do it. It's gonna be something. It was awesome, and then it's obviously worth it. Tenfold. So.
The funny thing is, I mean, literally, like, none of us really picked each other at all. And that's the cool thing about it, is that, like, I really think things happen for a reason. And, like, I can't imagine what it would be like touring with anybody else. And we just get along so well, and we're like siblings, pretty much. It's a very sibling type relationship. Yes.
You mentioned the piano guys before, but you've also done stuff with like Hale, Legend, and now the Grammy Award-winning like Pentatonics. What is it like adjusting to like their different styles? You know, do you have a favorite out of all the ones you've done a joint with?
It's very different every time you go to a studio or a writing session with someone new. It's interesting to see how different people do things, and sometimes you take little things from it and be like, I like that, you know. But I think that's what keeps it fresh and keeps it new and keeps you from being too much in a routine, and that's why I love collaborating so much, because it's almost like you find a different part of yourself musically and as a person when you're working with a different kind of musician. And like I said, the piano guys is probably my favorite one. Who else? I mean, I've done a lot of awesome, you know, I've done so many that I've enjoyed. I love working with Peter Poland. Working with Owl City was amazing. I don't know if he's big out here, but he was really, really cool. Maybe just a couple more questions, yeah.
So you've done a lot of gaming kind of music videos. Do you game yourself, like what console?
I did as a kid. I used to play like I got the original like Nintendo console, you know, where you have to like on the game really get to play. So I was a big Mario fan, and then now I love cosplay. I love dressing up as the characters. It's like my favorite part of it, and also the epic music just like calls for violin. So it's just like this perfect marriage of some of my favorite things: playing dress up, making music. Yes.
Are you going to be releasing a music video for We Are Giants?
I probably will at some point. I haven't decided what that music video will be yet, but I should. Lots of big people. I was gonna say, should Dia and I be giants, or should we be seeing giants?
You should be.
Or giants.